Yeah, we'll talk about it on the back end.
Yeah, we'll talk about
Yeah,
professional.
we'll talk.
There's nobody here anyway yet, but the one is me, I think, on my computer. So
No, yeah, I don't like talking too much about my business at work.
no,
This, yeah.
keep it separate for sure. Me too.
Well, my boss has a super big following, so
Yeah, he
yeah,
does.
he literally has a worldwide following. So
He
it's
does.
like,
He's
yeah,
one of the top chef guys. Yeah.
yeah, he's one of those guys. So I'll be seeing him again on Sunday. He's
Oh,
a
cool.
rap fan. He's a rap fan. Last time I seen him in October, we had like, he was like, yeah, Red Alert lives right up the street from one of my houses. I was like, must be nice.
Yeah.
He's like I see that guy all the
Notice the one of your houses part of that sentence, right?
time.
Yeah. Oh
Yes,
man.
sir. So we're doing the Larry June, right? Night
Yeah,
shift.
doing night shift. Yeah.
I mean, first of all, we got to figure out what's going on with our Instagram. I'm not able. I've been seeing you post some wonderful things on IG
Mm-hmm.
about us, and I haven't been able to add them to my stories. It's been going on all week.
I might. Is it? Have you been able to before?
Yes.
Huh. I'll have to go in there into my Instagram settings after this. Remind me, and I'll go and check and see if I have something turned off or turned on or something like that, like some not shareable thing or not whatever. Like I don't know. Like I haven't messed with the settings. Like I haven't touched them, so they should not be different than they were the first time when you were
Right.
able to share. So I don't know. Instagram is the thing that I'm learning how to leverage a little bit more now. That's one of my new projects that I'm trying to figure out how to. Um, I'm starting to think of the this show and this channel as kind of our main attraction, so to speak, and Instagram's kind of the marketing arm of that, like the say not sales, but I mean, we're not selling anything right now, but like that kind of advertising almost kind of thing.
Mm.
So we'll see how that goes. I don't know. That's the thing that I'm learning about. So always trying to learn something, right?
Always.
So you told me it's been a couple months now, probably. And I've heard you talk about it on According to Hip Hop occasionally. That's that the Larry June albums, both of them, are probably not album of the year, but contenders for that. They're like on that list, right? Um,
Yeah.
and
Like.
I've read a couple like top 10, top 20 albums of the year lists of that mix all the genres together, right? And almost all of them that include Larry June are including Great Escape. They're not including this one. So
That's why I wanted to cover this one.
yeah. So tell me a little bit about that. Why do you
Hey,
like?
well, I mean, let's talk about why the Great Escape is getting more pub and hip hop
Yeah.
circles. Because Alchemist did the production.
Okay.
Alchemist, along with Hit Boy and Metro,
Mm-hmm.
Metro Boomin down here. Metro's from here. Actually, I think Metro's raised here. I don't know if Metro's originally from here, if memory
Right.
serves, but he's Atlanta pretty much.
Claim Atlanta. Yeah.
Those are pretty much the three best producers of this era.
Okay.
And Alchemist in hip hop circles
Mm-hmm.
is the most respected of the three.
Okay.
And for good reason.
What else has he done? I don't know. I mean, I know the name, but I don't know very much about him.
Do you remember the song When We Were Younger, We Gonna Make It with Jadakiss and Styles?
Probably. It's one of those on the list of I would recognize it if I heard it, but don't know it off the top of my head.
He came up. Alchemist originally started off up under Cypress Hill.
Okay.
So DJ Muggs, he's a protege of DJ Muggs, and then he learned from Havoc of Mobb Deep. So
Okay.
he's
I know. Yeah.
yeah, he came under from two of the best in Muggs and in Havoc. So most notably, I think the best project he's ever produced that I've talked about on According to Hip Hop a lot is Alfredo by Freddie Gibbs.
I have heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Gibbs's album last year was excellent too. Like that
Yes.
that's one of the few hip hop things that I listened to repeatedly last year.
Do you remember the song "Blackest in the Room"?
Probably, yeah. Like the song. I in my head, the Gibbs project is just like one, not long song, but like I don't differentiate the songs to my head.
Very well put together. No, I get what you're
Yeah.
saying. It's very well put together, so the transitions are seamless. Alchemist did Blackest in the Room, but he did what I feel like is the best project of Gibbs' career and the best project of his career production wise with Alfredo.
Okay.
So, but he's all over the place. Like he's on, he goes back to Nas on Godson. Book of Rhymes is an Alchemist beat. He's
Okay.
literally worked with everybody. Recently, Benny the Butcher, like Benny's album is about to drop, I believe. Hit Boy and
About a month, right?
Huh?
It's about a month, right?
Yeah,
Benny's. Yeah.
yeah. Benny's project drops next month. I like that he waited to the top of the year because that gets the year off to a strong start. Because I think he's going to have a great album. But Alchemist is highly respected and well known in hip hop circles. Has a album listing producer, an
Mhm.
executive produce your whole album. He's done a lot of projects with Boldy James that I'm a fan of. Him and Boldy have a relationship going back well over 10 years now. He did A Price of Tea in China for Boldy, which I think is probably Boldy's best piece of work.
Okay.
So
That seems to be
he's
a pattern, right? Like he's,
yeah.
he's the present for a lot of people's best piece of work, according to what you're saying, right?
I mean, before this Hit Boy Nas run, I would tell you that he was the best producer, hip hop wise, of the past decade.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah, like I mean, and I'm not to go too far off, but people don't understand how important like those Nas projects are on the Hit Boy side because KD3 is the best album of the 2020s, rap wise. You know,
Hmm.
and so and Magic is right there, and so is Magic 3.
Yeah.
So it's like three of the best 10 projects of the last 4 or 5 years, definitely of the 2020s, belong to one producer. Alfredo's in that mix though.
Okay.
Alchemist is right there. And so when you put Alchemist with somebody, he has a tendency to bring out the best in them. But I don't know if that's the best of Larry June. This is more, the night shift is more Larry June's roots.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
he comes from the Bay Area.
Right.
I know your wife, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
is,
She's from there. Yeah. I mean, she's
yeah,
from all up and down the West Coast, but yeah, she was born there, that general area. And when I met her, she was living in Marin County. Yeah.
yeah. So he's from Frisco.
Yeah.
So he has definitely a Bay type of feel and vibe. But just to kind of get this started the right way, he kind of speak. He's like a modern day Too Short to me.
Okay. And Too Short features on here too. Shout out him, man. Like,
Love Short. Short actually lives down here in Atlanta too. I used to
that's
take.
really
Yeah, I took care. I waited on Too Short and his wife when I first moved back from Cali. Like what
mhm,
now is like 16, 17 years ago. Really
yeah.
nice dude too. But yeah, he is in my mind offspring of Too Short, and it's quite frankly it's Bay Area pimp talk, you know,
Yeah. That's kind of what my feel was too. Yeah.
which is what Too Short made famous in the Bay, you know,
Hmm.
and so for me this album, the Night Shift, the Night Shift is more for the Bay.
Okay.
It's like the Great Escape might be for the general hip hop heads who don't know Larry June, and I'd like to talk about the Great Escape too,
Okay.
but
I've listened
this
to both.
This is like the night shift is something Larry June made for his set. He didn't make that for everybody, but
Hmm.
it's beautiful and it fits that California. It fits the entire California culture in terms of the sounds and the aesthetics,
Yeah.
and definitely is like no cal on some yay area shit in terms of the pimp talk. And so I've said this a lot on According to Hip Hop too. The job of a hip hop artist, according to Missy Elliott, is to bring you into their world.
Right.
And this is more of Larry June's world than The Great Escape, and that's why I prefer the project.
Okay. That
But I
makes sense.
don't. But I don't prefer it by much. We're going to do our top 10 hip hop albums of the year list on
Hmm.
Monday on A2HH,
Okay.
and both Larry June albums are going to make my top 10. As of right now, I still have some other stuff to listen to, but right now, if I was placing them respectively, they'd be like 4 and 6 or 4 and 7.
Okay.
So the separation in the projects is minimal.
Right. I remember listening because I clicked on the Great Escape first when you suggested them like a month ago or whatever, and I told you this then that it took me a while to kind of lock into that flow. It's not unusual exactly, but it's certainly different than the kinds of projects I was used to hearing. This one, like the night shift, was an immediate like, oh yeah, I recognize this. This is like classic West Coast. Like I hear like the types of beats, the types of synths in the background, like all of that goes like I hear all the way back to Dre, and I like all of like it has that feel. I mean, it doesn't sound
Yeah,
like that exactly, and the rhymes and the cadences don't sound like that, but the beats and the music or whatever does have that feel for sure.
absolutely. Like, I mean, and maybe this is just my time on the West Coast. I love hearing some West Coast shit.
Yeah,
But when I
and
think of
that was one of those like, oh, like it hit me in the face immediately. Like it was like, oh yeah, this is something that I recognize.
right, that's what I mean. Is like, the Great Escape isn't like that.
No, and it's excellent, but it took me a while to kind of took me 3 or 4 songs to kind of get my bearings of what he was doing and how he was doing it. And I'm like,
Well,
okay, I can get this, but it took a minute.
well, that's part of the reason why I wanted to cover the project because I think a lot of the hip hop that I've even passed along to you is very East Coast and Southern driven.
I agree.
And I wanted you to kind of see that there's like all sorts of sides and levels to this. And he's
Yeah,
not even a typical West Coast guy because he has what I like to call a Benadryl flow.
yeah,
It's like real slow
and low too.
and low and gravelly.
Yeah,
And it doesn't seem like he's trying too hard. Sometimes it doesn't even feel like he's rapping. It almost feels like he's talking to you,
yeah,
you know? But
right.
that goes back to another West Coast pimp talk icon, Sugar Free. Are you familiar with Sugar Free?
I heard that name before, but I don't know anything about it.
Go look up Sugar Free. So a lot of his flow is actually like Sugar Free's flow with a different voice. It's like he's not even rapping; he's just talking to you.
Okay.
But Sugar Free is that pimp talk too. Like him and Too Short, SoCal and NoCal respectively are probably known for just the pimp talk, you know. And
Yeah.
so he is offshoots of those, and so I can see why everybody on the West loves him. So you know, I have a god cousin who works in Hollywood,
Hmm.
you know, and works in marketing there. One of his homies that used to work with him at an agency in LA
Hmm.
was literally at my job when Larry June was in town. And it's funny, the girl she was with is one of my homies who I used to work with here in Atlanta. She lives in Canada now. She's an artist, but they were all about going to the Larry June show because he has a following like that, like on the West Coast, where it's like, oh no, he was in Atlanta, and these are some West Coastin ass girls, and they were pulling up on me like, yo, Coop, we're going to see Larry June after we leave here. I was like, yeah. And so it's a real thing, and also too, he's one of those guys that I hate when people criticize him
Hmm.
because people need to understand there's space for everybody on the stage.
Yeah.
Everybody's not supposed to be Black Thought and Nas on the mic. Everybody's not supposed to be uh, Tupac with the conscious rhetoric or Scarface with the gangster's conscious ethos. It's like, no, there's room for everybody. And Larry June, he's fun to listen to.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like sometimes in hip hop, people do, like Rakim said, I take this more serious than just a poem. It's
Hmm.
like that's okay for you to operate on that level, but it's okay for people who don't want to take it more serious than just a poem too. Like it's room for everybody. That's one of the beautiful things about how hip hop has expanded itself and grown is that there's room for everybody. And so I hate when people on the more lyrical East Coast side or even on the more Southern bias side are like, man, that guy can't really rap. They used to say that about Boldy James. Boldy's from Detroit. Him and Larry June have a lot of vocal similarities,
Hmm.
a very heavy tone, a very syrupy drawl. That's why I call it the Benadryl flow.
Hmm.
But there's nothing wrong with those guys. Those guys are great MCs, you know. And quite frankly, you don't make it to this level and get a certain level of following unless you're doing something right. And he's doing a lot right. he's an excellent production picker.
Yeah.
I can remember when Rick Ross wasn't the best MC, but Rick Ross has always picked phenomenal beats.
Yeah.
And so also too, you got to give people room to grow. But like you were telling me when you listen to this, you were like, "This is some shit you just get in the car and ride to." It's
Yeah.
like it sure is, and
Mhm.
there's space for that in hip hop.
Yeah. Exactly.
In the summertime, anybody without a roof or with a convertible would play this shit and roll around Grant Park and like all that around here. So there's space for it, and the song quality and song structure is there. And also too, you don't get people like Two Chains and Schoolboy Q and
Yeah.
Too Short on your album unless you're doing something right.
Like those are heavy hitters.
Those are heavy hitters. That should let you know. And there, like, how about this? There's like a food chain in hip hop like there is everywhere else.
Mhm.
And Larry June may not be a heavy hitter yet, but understand the heavy hitters look at him like
Mhm.
about to be a heavy hitter.
Okay.
And because you usually
Oh,
don't get features from these guys unless they really see and respect your hustle and see what you're doing. All these guys tour and do shows. I mean, Too Short's right there, so he probably been hearing about Larry from
yeah.
a minute from his people. But somebody like Two Chains, as big as Chains is right now, think about this: Chains just dropped the album with Wayne. For a lot of people, Wayne's the best rapper of this generation. For some people, Wayne's the greatest of all time. And for
Mhm.
somebody like Chains, who's not even from the West, Schoolboy Q is probably my favorite rapper out of TDE. He's probably the most unheralded, and he's gotten a lot of critical praise in a good way. But guys like Q and Chains and Too Short don't just go jump on anybody's album.
Yep.
And so there is some cosign credibility that comes with what's going on. Alchemists just don't do anybody's album.
Yeah. And he did that whole album too, right? Pretty much. The other one, the Great Escape one, he did the whole
Yeah,
thing. Yeah.
yeah, that's what I mean. Alchemists don't produce your whole joint unless you can rap.
Yeah.
That's why I was bringing up the Cypress Hill, Havoc,
Yeah.
Nas. Like, yeah, Alchemist has worked with those guys. So he obviously has an ear.
Let's say he has an ear for things, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Um, that was one of my notes actually was music can be different things for different people, and I'm glad you brought that up. Like this feels to me like a hip hop equivalent of like the Chili Peppers or something like that. Something that is like fun and not in every place lyrically super deep, but it's it's good to listen to. Also, like the rock and roll comparisons would be more like the people want to hear me saying this and think I'm being dismissive, but I'm not. Like the West Coast um, metal rock band like the '80s, the Van Halens and the Guns N' Roses and Poison and like that kind of stuff. It is not lyrically dense, largely about cars and girls, or at least partially about cars and girls, and a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Like like you said, it doesn't have to be more than that. It doesn't need to be. It doesn't have to be more.
Not to be funny. I mean, we're guys. We like cars and girls. That's what I mean about it. It's like when people are criticizing Larry June, it's like he can't rap. It's like you like cars and girls too. Like, shut up.
Choosing to do this is not. This is not a lack of skill thing. This is a. I'm
Yeah,
making the choice to do this.
right. That's what people have to understand is that some people they don't want to be Rakim or Black Thought or Nas or Jay on the mic. They have no aspirations to do that. They're not shooting for that goal.
Yeah.
Like most people, I mean, hip hop was always about putting on for your set.
Hmm.
You can ask your wife this. In the Bay, which they call the Yay, oh no, the girls and the cars are a big part of it.
Hmm.
Like
I
when
know
he's talking
the album for sure on the night
when,
shift. Right.
when he's talking about my car didn't cost 100 grand, that
Hmm.
lets you know he's like, no, we're cool with riding in our old school. We don't like need a Maybach up here. We'll drive a deuce and a quarter and trick it out and put it on white walls and Vogues and still ride around in that shit at the top. We'll fucking tear off the roof. We'd rather spend $20 to tear off the roof of an old school than maybe buy a Bentley. You know what I mean? That's the culture there.
Okay.
So he's speaking to his culture. And if you've ever been up there, which I have, it's like no, he's right in pocket with his culture,
Yeah.
and that's what really all great artists do. You know, I am interested in hearing your thoughts. I want to hear your notes from this because I know that this is more of a left field turn than the hip hop I traditionally like feed your way.
Yeah, like it was unexpected for sure. Um, I shared it with a couple of my students too because the cadence of his flow is very similar to the stuff that like when they do fake rap battles or whatever around the halls and class. Or, I mean those kind of things. This the kind of rhyming that he's doing, both subject matter and like the style of it is very similar to that. So I was like, I bet you would guys would like this too. So a couple of them have been listening to it too. Um,
Have you gotten any feedback yet?
they hadn't said anything back yet. Like it was like, just like a couple days ago. I told them. So, um,
Do a good bit of your students know that you do this? Do you like? Is this
I've told a couple, but like I'm not. I don't be. I'm not like everybody. Look at me. Like it's not.
right?
Uh,
You never strike me
they
as that.
found it and found me, but like it's
Okay.
not. I'm not like intentionally trying to keep it separate, but it's not. I don't be like, hey, everybody, look at me. I'm a. That's not. And they're like, oh, it's an old man, whatever. Like it's not. It's not really. I mean, but I don't mind talking about it with them. And we do this is a sidebar I know, but we do a thing every once a week where I have them like write down a couple songs that they've been listening to a bunch this week, just to kind of keep my ears fresh and stuff too. Um, and I do one for them too, where I write down a couple things I've been listening to. And you hear everything that I said? You froze for a second. You heard me?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I did. I didn't hear that last part.
Where well, they have a project they do, or not a project, like a little writing thing they do every week where they write down 3 songs that they've been listening to this past week and like why they like them or whatever. And sometimes they give me links to them and stuff like that. So it keeps my ear fresh. But also I do that for them too. Like I put 3 things that I've been listening to on there too. And you obviously know that I have a very eclectic music taste, so I put all kinds of crazy shit on there. But um, so we're trying to speak that way across that divide. But I mean,
Helps.
half of them probably don't even read anything that I write. But like, I'm just trying to share. Like, it doesn't work. I've found this is way off subject. Sorry, but like, it doesn't work in my world to like pretend that I'm like this cool hip old man or whatever. Like, that's just not. It doesn't come off right. Right. Like, you have to be yourself always, and um,
I think the coolest thing about you is that you've never tried to be cool, even when we were in high school. I think that's why. And not to be funny, I think that's why all like the black kids who knew you fucked with you. It's because you weren't ever trying to appropriate our culture, but it never kind of felt like you were trying to be like Joe college white guy either.
yeah. And
Yeah,
there were a lot of those at our school. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, trust me, I know. Like
Yeah.
there are like some people are cool. Never mind. That's about to go into a hole.
We're not gonna start saying people's names on here. We're not gonna do that.
No, like how about this? You remember Claire? You and Claire
Yeah.
Manning friends?
I mean, I know her, but I mean, she and I were never like close particularly, but like we
Always
same circles, but not like
always fucked with Claire because Claire was like, Armand, like I'm super white. You couldn't tell. You know what I mean? Like she was so honest about it.
yeah.
She's like, no, I'm white. Like not trying to be anything else. Like, and I always fucked with people like that more so than somebody like, I fucked with people that kind of knew who they were.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Like one of the stories that I tell, we're getting way off Larry June here, but I mean, this is part of the conversation, right? That is that in my younger teaching days, 10, 15 years ago, I pretended like I knew more about hip hop culture than I did, like as a cool factor in classes, and it worked then because a lot of those kids didn't know any better. But the according to hip hop was one of those moments for me too. Like I started watching just to support you, like because you're my friend, and like I want to support the stuff that you're doing, and like I mean, I joke that I know more about hip hop than probably 75% of 40-year-old white guys that grew up in like this, like, right. Like, I accept that. But like, when I was listening to you and Mike D talk about it, I was like, I don't know shit about this. Like it's like, I recognized when I listened to people who really knew what they were talking about that how little I really knew. which is one of the genesis C's. I just made up that word, but one of the beginning points of this show is because I was like, dude, I don't know nearly enough about this. Please teach me. Like that was where one of the ideas where this started.
Yeah, no, that was the idea. I think you hit me up one day and was like, "Hey, dude, I thought I knew stuff. I'm realizing I don't know shit." And I'm like, "Oh, well, just ask me a question or two." You know what I mean? I was like, pretty much. I think I was like, just hit me up whenever you like. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Because here's the thing, I'm kind of like you. I didn't even realize how much more. And this is not to try to downplay anybody. It's like I didn't realize how much more I knew than even people who were getting paid for it and still are getting paid significantly more at the time until people started kind of hitting me up like your shit the way very few people do. And I
Yeah,
was like, oh, because even like I thought everybody was the type of head that I was that was a head. They was like, no, no, no. There was like your breakdowns and the way you go in depth is different. And I didn't realize until I did according to hip hop either. I thought I was really just another rap guy. And
yeah,
it's like then you find out that it's like, oh no, my detail and my breakdown is different. And because I didn't watch these other guys either. You know what I mean? Not like that. It's just like I didn't care like that. And so, the same revelation happened to me just like in a different way. Yeah.
yeah. It's been an interesting ride, and I would say that I know way more now than I did 2 years ago when we started, for sure. Like that, I recognize this is a West Coast. Like
Me too.
even I knew he was a Bay guy like before because I've read a little bit about it. Um, but like listening to the opening of this album, it's really super obvious. Like it's one of those like, and that's
Blatant.
not I necessarily would have been able to do 2 years ago, like or been able to identify clearly. Um, I do think this album, the Night Shift one, is more directly accessible than The Great Escape is. Like,
Me too.
put it on, like, people, or this was my reaction to it anyway, that it was something that I got immediately. Like, I see what you're doing. I see, and I have more frames of reference for it, right? I have more like comparisons and connections I can make between this and other things that I've heard. It's not like
Yeah.
completely out of left field in the same kind
Yes.
that the Great Escape kind of felt for me when I first started listening to it.
You know, Alchemist makes very niche type of albums,
Mm.
as in like the mass consumption of hip hop
Hmm.
is going to consume it.
Yeah.
But outside of that, core hip hop consumption, not sure about the consumption.
Hmm.
This was some shit. That's why I think the night shift is better. It's like, oh no, like if you can't ride to this shit,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
some of these be on radio.
Yeah. They should be.
Yeah.
The Sweet Lady song should. The Love of Money should. The Great Escape should. The some of those songs are just like, oh, okay. Like it's one of those you hear. And when I texted you, um, I don't know, Wednesday night or Tuesday night or whenever it was, when I was driving to my daughter's concert, that was the first time I'd heard it, like the first time I'd put it on, and I was like, oh, and that was one of the first things I texted you. It was like, this is some shit to ride to. This is, and in contrast to listening to The Great Escape, that is something that I got immediately when I listened to this.
Hmm. Well, and here's the thing too, is like, and here's what I mean about the move is intentional, how it's some Bay Area shit. It's like, okay, so sometimes I gauge, like, how about this? When I play The Great Escape, I don't have to change my bass.
Hmm.
The night shift, because of how the beats knock,
Yeah.
no, it makes the car the squeak.
Shake.
And so I got to turn the bass down a little
Yeah.
because it's meant to ride.
Minivan that I'm driving.
I mean,
It's like,
I'm driving an SUV now,
yeah.
and so even in the SUV, I mean, and it has a good speaker system. No, when you put the night shift on, it's like, no, 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 we got to cut the bass down 2 notches because I don't want to blow these speakers.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's one of those albums. Like, me and Six used to joke, like, and this is just some Southern shit and some West Coast shit. This is more Southern and West Coast than it is East Coast or Midwest thing. It's like Six used to tell me, it's like, no, I want some shit that makes me like adjust my speakers. Like that's how the knock and the ride factor is. That it's like, oh no, I got to take my treble over here. I got to take my bass here. I need to equalize this just to play this record because it's meant to knock. And in the
Yeah.
night shift. that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some of your other notes?
Um, a lot of the things you've covered already, like, we have a lot of the same feelings about it. I mean, I guess that's why it's called mirror music, right? Um, it's is driving music. We talked about why you think this one's better, and it's more directly accessible. Like, I mean, we haven't really got into the
Like,
the, the actual song by song of it, um, really. But I want you to talk about a little bit about the pimp history, like, because that's very strong here. And there's a lot of songs. Like, I was going back through Magic 3, I don't know, a few days earlier too, because I'm setting up a video that I'm going to talk about, do a reaction to another one of the songs, and there's a lot of that on. Or there's more of that than I expected on a Nas album too. The Pretty Young Girl is, the Blue Bentley is. I mean, there's a few of them, right? Um, and so you can talk about that history a little bit, but also like how that's different in in Larry June as opposed to some more East Coast kind of talking too, because the types of songs are similar, but the way that they're executed don't feel the same to me.
how about this? The Nas shit is player talk.
Okay.
That's not talk. That's player talk.
Okay.
He's a player. He's not a pimp.
Gotcha.
There's a difference, you know.
Okay.
So, so a good way to just juxtapose it is to understand like the way that like Nas and Jay talk about women. That's more player talk than pimp talk.
Okay.
No, this is pimp talk right here. When he's talking about, I told her I ain't want to get married or have no kids, but she's still paying my rent.
Mm.
That's pimp shit.
Okay.
Not being funny, a lot of these rappers think that they're pimps, but they're really tricks. Not, I mean, I don't know how to say this. A lot of these guys, if they weren't famous rappers with a lot of money,
Mm.
they would never get the women that they get
Okay.
because they don't have game like that. Their game is their name and their money. That's not game to a pimp. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like a pimp is somebody that can pull like the finest girl in the room in some old sneakers and a t-shirt. You know,
Okay.
like mouthpiece. His presence, his persona is the thing.
Okay.
The clothes and the money and the cars, that's extra. Real pimp don't need nothing because the whole point of pimping is to get the women to get it for you.
Mm.
So a lot of these guys, when they talk about like I'm this, I'm that, it's like, no, fam, you really gotta fly her out, pay for everything. Like, and these dudes talk about it like they think that they really like are the shit. It's like, yeah, yeah, I bought her this, I bought her that. It's like, yeah, because you had to, you
Mm.
know. Like, I mean, not to be funny, it's like I know this because, well, quite frankly, my grandfather and my father used to be pimps,
Mm.
and so my gift of gab, that's where my gift of gab comes from.
Okay.
Yeah,
But genetically and training too. Like you
yeah. But
observe. Yeah.
I mean, but not to be funny, a lot of people like the women that I've dated in my life, they're like, "How'd you do that?" It's like, "Oh no, I can do that. I don't need to put on no chain and drive no fancy car to go get that girl. Like you need to do that."
Mm.
But for a real pimp, those are all that's all extra shit. You know, she the one that's actually supposed to help you get the car. You know what I'm saying? She the one that's supposed to help you get the place. That's why Larry's like, no, no, no. I told her I wasn't wifing her. She's still paying my rent. That's because he has her psychologically and mentally like that. And so pimping, a lot of it isn't a flash thing, it's a mental thing. You know, for a real pimp, it's like you take a woman's mind. A player is concerned with her body. So when these guys are talking about how they use women, it's like that's player talk. And it's really simp player talk too. A pimp is talking about how he takes a woman's mind and has control, not her body. Notice notice Larry June is talking very little about how these women look.
Right.
Notice he's
I mean,
talking about
much more time talking about how the cars look than he does about.
Yeah. Meanwhile, these other guys are like, yeah, she had this, she had that. Her hair was like this, her face and her skin tone was like that. This was like this. It's like, yeah, it's not pimp talk, you know? So that's kind of how it goes for a real pimp. It's more of a mental thing. So notice Larry sets the scene about what his lifestyle looks like and tells you very, very little about what the girl looks like.
Yeah.
Tells you very little about how her mind works. Because why would he give up his tricks of the trade to you? And that's why I mean it's very too short, like in a sense. It's like Too
And
Short didn't talk about the way.
Too Short's verse on that song that was very like explicitly pimpish, like right, like that one. Like I mean, the undertones are throughout the whole album, obviously, but that verse was very very direct. The way he talked about too.
Yeah. I mean, so the best way to explain remember The World Is Filled off of
Mhm.
Life After Death? So
Mhm.
Too Short has a verse on Biggie's album, and he goes, I've had a whole lot of bitches in my lifetime. I've been blessed with the game, always say the right line. Had a few prostitutes if you knew the truth. The life pimps. They can't let them do it to you. She ain't no sucker. I know this bitch, man, she wanna be pretty woman loving a rich man. And here she comes, drop top riding. You ain't no pimp, fake nigga, stop lying. Pussy makes money. Stick to the business. Think about the real motherfuckers that live this. Pimp life, street shit. Make the hoe respect the game. You bought her diamonds and cars, trick, that's a shame. Say what you want, but I still figure. She left because you couldn't beat like them real niggas. She was a hustler by nature, and you were just faker than the average simp. Found a badder pimp. Too short. That's pimp talk.
Hmm. And that's not terribly distant from the way he talked on this verse
The way
either.
he's been talking his whole career.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Is it's like notice he's like didn't tell you how beautiful she was. He's
No.
like, yeah, he's explaining the situation. They're concerned with the mental aspect of it. Pussy makes money. Stick to the business.
Yeah.
Right. Like, it's a business for a pimp.
Mm.
Right. And I've dated women who have been in the game, quite frankly.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It's different. You know what I mean? I was with a woman one time and Andrew, she was traumatized because we were in a place where she used to, and she was worried that somebody she used to deal with might see her. You know what I'm saying? And it might be some shit with me and him. So it's like it's a whole world. And so most of these dudes is talking on record. That's what I mean is like, no, 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 Larry's putting on for his set. Because most of these dudes is talking, they don't talk like that because they've never really lived that or been around that like that. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And so it is a part of our culture. And quite frankly, it's the oldest fucking profession in the world. It really is. Like it's in the Bible.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
all.
I mean, people forget like what's her name, Rahab, the prostitute,
Mhm.
made her way into Jesus's bloodline because she helped expose the people in Sodom and Gomorrah, and she's part of Jesus's bloodline. But he also uses that to show it's like, yeah, yeah, the world looks at prostitutes and pimping like it's this damn thing. It's like not in God's eyes. You just need to do the right thing one time to get put in the bloodline, you know.
Mhm.
And so people like Too Short and Larry June talk about it with an openness because, quite frankly, it's what they witnessed
Yeah. I
and
mean,
lived.
one of the things I love about hip hop music generally, because you see it more in this style, that type of music, than any other kind, really, where people are speaking directly to their own lived experiences, or maybe not their lived experiences, but things that they've witnessed, things that they've seen, things that they've like, and you don't see that in the same way in other kinds of music often, really. There's much more like people trying to make points and people trying to be political and people talking about how about the girl or whatever. Like it's there's not a ton of there's a lot of I don't want to be like talking about your feelings, but like that's kind of what it's more not more emotional. It's not how I want to say it. It's more um, concerned with feelings than narrate a lot more hip hop music that I'm familiar with anyway is like narrating like
Circumstance,
yeah
narrating the life
but
circumstance. Yeah. So look at it like this: a pimp with a lot of money would never go into a strip club and go throw money on a bunch of women. That's why it's like a lot of these dudes that run around and think that they're the shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like to a real pimp, it's like they look like simps because it's like, hold on, it's like you got a bunch of money, and what you want to do with your money is go pay a bunch of women. A pimp thinks like, I'm trying to get the women to pay me.
Mm.
Like a pimp will go to a strip club to have a good time, but he probably has a whole bunch of women with him already when he's walking in. Like he's probably bringing his girls to have a good time more than he's about to go throw some money on some girls. So these dudes would be talking about making it rain and like all that. It's like, oh no, no, to real pimps, that's not real talk. You're a sucker. You a simple dude. Like, not to be funny, it's like a lot of these NBA players end up having babies by strippers because they're simps, not because they're pimps. They're not players. It's like you just got a lot of money. She would never talk to you if you didn't come in there and throw $30,000 on her.
Yeah.
That's not a player. And I know because it's like I've pulled women like literally like off the pole with $100 in my pocket, Andrew. You know what I'm saying? It's like that's what a pimp do. Like these guys aren't pimps and players like they think that they are. They're tricks, really, mostly. Yeah. And real hustlers and real pimps like no and like laugh at these dudes that think that they are. And so a lot of these guys that are big time in the NBA and in rap, they think that when they go out there getting disrespected by these guys, it's like you are getting disrespected, but you're getting disrespected because you're acting like you know the game and you don't.
Mm.
You know, it's a respect thing. It's like I don't come in your world and tell you how to play ball.
Yeah. It's
You know,
yeah. It goes back to our previous conversation, just this, about not pretending to be something that you're not, right? About
yeah,
being real. Like, I mean, you know the Peter Crouch story. I'm gonna tell it for everybody here, but like Peter Crouch was a is still a gangly ass motherfucker, and he was a professional soccer player in England. He's like 6'7" and all bones and elbows and whatever. You know who I'm talking about? Okay. Um, and he played, his heyday was alongside like Wayne Rooney. I mean, it was that kind of generation. All right. And somebody asked him in an interview one time what he would be if he wasn't a professional footballer, and he said a virgin. Um, and like so that is, and everybody quotes that, and everybody thinks that's hilarious. Um,
no, it's real.
but it's funny because it shows self awareness, like in itself, in a sense of humor about yourself, right? Like it's um, and 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 that's why everybody loves him, because he is aware of his own self and his own limitations and his own whatever else, right? Like he knows himself.
Like, how about this? Like, not to be funny, guys like Nas or Method Man, they wouldn't struggle to get women without their money. They're good looking guys.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know what I'm saying? Like, oh no, they was probably getting girls. They was probably getting the prettiest girls in their neighborhoods before they had a rap deal. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So for them, it's probably a transition. You know what I mean? Some of these other guys, it's like, oh no, you would never. Like, not for the caliber of women that you see him with. Like, I'm not going to call like anybody out. I'm going to speak more to the guys that probably have the capability of doing it. And also, too, and listen to what I'm saying. Oh no, Method Man and Nas got serious mouthpieces.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
their talk game is serious.
right.
Right.
And you can hear that in their music too, obviously, right?
It reflects in the music. That's why it's like, yeah, some of these guys that think they got it like that, it's like, no. With Larry June, it reflects because it's real.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
You
why.
can tell the difference. Like, it's kind of like when people are like, you know, we've been having this Hell Hath No Fury conversation for like weeks now on According to Him
I know. I
because
see.
I think that I have the album overrated. It's like, quite frankly, when people say that, it's like, here's the first thing I think. Yeah, you've never really sold no drugs or been around somebody who ever moved some serious weight. Because if you did, you would understand exactly why I take that album so seriously. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh no, they're under real pressure by the law. They're really getting watched by the feds. Most of their guys really caught the RICO. That's different than how these other guys talk. That's why I like the album, is because you can go listen to something like a Hell Hath No Fury or a Reasonable Doubt by Jay, and it's like, oh no, these guys are doing what they're talking about. Now go listen to some of these other guys, and it doesn't sound that detailed. It doesn't
Yeah,
sound that perfect. It's because they didn't really live that life. And so I'm always going to give the authenticity the nod because everybody's talented. When you're being authentic is different. That's why the Larry June shit hits me different. I'm like, oh no, this is authentic. You know?
and that's why Joni Mitchell stuff hits different too. I mean, not to come out left field there. That's why she is as good as she is, because everybody's had those feelings too, and it hits like in
Yeah.
here. And she has
I mean,
plenty of interviews, not
like,
to go far off track, but she has plenty of interviews where she talks about the male singer songwriter people. Most of them of her generation didn't like her very much because they're like, oh shit, now we have to write like that too, like because
you mean
she's better.
feelings?
Do
You mean
what?
talking about feel? Yeah, you
Yeah,
do. Yeah.
yeah,
But most of these guys have fucked up feelings, so they don't like sharing their feelings. They like to just put on and make it seem like they're somebody that they're not. That's why I was like, when you told me like her contemporaries, I was like, well, truthfully, she's better than all of them actually as a writer and a lyricist. It's like some of them may have some better melodies, but like barely at that.
yeah. I've been going back. She released um, an archive. I wrote about it in the best of non hip hop thing that I wrote, I don't know, a week or two ago. And she has a like it's like a 90 something song, like just pulling from the archives of like a live performance she did at Carnegie Hall and like a few other things too. And I've gone back and listened to that, and it's it's so much music of that generation feels dated now. Like it feels good, but like of that time. And you could have told me that she wrote those songs last week, and I'd be like, yeah, okay, I would have believed that. They have a timeless quality to them
I'd
that
say
a lot of music doesn't have.
timeless themes once again.
Hmm. And
Okay, so
somehow we have gotten all the way from Larry June to Joni Mitchell.
I get out my head. I was thinking that I was like, man, why I love this show. I was like, we were talking about Larry June's pimping ass, and somehow we got the Joni Mitchell. I'm like, yeah, this is righteous.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of the jokes of our early shows is that all the roads led to Stevie Wonder. Like no matter where we started, we ended up with Stevie Wonder. Um, and she's another one of those people that belongs in like that. Like all roads lead there.
She, how about this? I don't say this too often. She is the caliber of songwriter that Stevie Wonder is.
Mhm.
She is. Yes. Yes,
She's
she is.
ones, yeah.
Yeah. Stevie would probably be my person. Like, I think he's probably the best songwriter ever, in my opinion.
Mhm.
But she would be in, if we were doing like a top five, she would make the top five and be in that conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's it's a lot like having the Nas and Jay conversation or whatever. Like you can have your own personal preferences or and bring your own evidence for it, but to say either one of them is the greatest is not a stupid like it's worth having the conversation, right? Like it's
Yeah. Uh,
not saying
it
you
was
know,
just it was just Jay's birthday, and Mike and I did a show, pretty much just talking about his career, and I was like, I said multiple times during the show, it's like, oh no, if you feel like he's the greatest ever, there's plenty of evidence. This would be some of it, just when I was pointing out some things, it's like I may feel like Nas is the greatest MC of all time, but if you feel like it's Jay, there's plenty of proof for that shit.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
not a stupid thing to say, right?
No, it's not a stupid thing to say. I don't agree with the sentiment, but
Right.
that doesn't mean that I think that people's sentiments about it are stupid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So, but I thought this album was great, and I felt like hip hop needed this album this year because it's been kind of like it's been a slower year, it's been a lower year, and I'm just quite frankly, it's like a lot of like most of the best albums this year aren't some shit to ride to.
Yeah.
Like
That's not been my impression either. Like
Killer Mike's album, the Michael album, that ain't no shit to ride to. Magic 3 is not anything to ride to necessarily either. It's got a couple tracks on there.
a couple songs, but not like the whole thing. Doesn't have to feel like this.
Yeah, this is the only album. That's why I was like, no, I was like, this is easy top 10 because you have to have variety.
Hmm.
You have to have variety. Everybody can't like, I love a brother with a message. I'm a brother with a message, but it's like sometimes when I'm going to work, when I'm making my long ass drive, I
Yeah,
just don't want to think about anything.
exactly.
Enjoy the acoustics
Yeah.
and enjoy the words that I'm hearing. Like one thing I like about Larry June, I love the way he puts words together.
Give me some examples of the things that you love in there. Not to put you on the spot.
I'm trying to think of something specifically about it. There is a lot of seamlessness to this album. I like albums like that, like the Freddie album where the transitions are seamless.
Yeah,
But
it feels like not all like one song necessarily, but like they all kind of go into each other.
like it's not necessarily it's where he puts his words. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It's almost like it almost comes off like he's not thinking about it too much.
Yeah.
He doesn't have what I like to call he's not using like these super big words. He's saying words that work for him in his voice. That's what I mean. It's like I like the way he puts words together. Like some guys vocally try to do stuff that maybe their vocal cords aren't built for.
Yeah.
He doesn't do that. He'll pause for 2 seconds and almost like come up with like the word that fits. Does that make sense? That's what I'm trying to like say.
There's more space in this than a lot of the ones that I know. Like, I
Yes.
don't mean that in a bad way at all. Just like there's room for things to breathe a little bit in a way.
Yeah.
See that necessarily in some other
Yeah.
projects.
I mean, like I said, I don't consider him to be like your top notch, quote unquote, lyrical MC. I don't even think lyrically he's like on 2 Chainz level.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And you hear it. You know what I mean? When they rap next to each
Yeah.
other. That doesn't mean there's not a place for him.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes I feel like people get too gatekeeper ish when somebody isn't lyrically hitting on a certain level that they would like. And it's like, oh no, it's not what he's here for. And quite frankly, Too Short was never that guy, and he did just fine.
Yeah, he did.
You know, like Too Short was never like some sort of super lyricist on the mic. Everybody loves Short now. You know, I can remember when Short was doing a Vibe article because this is the thing. I remember when he was doing a Vibe article when we were teenagers, and he was like, "How you not gonna have me in your top 10?" He's like, "Name somebody that don't love Too Short." And it's like, well, the reason he didn't make a lot of people's top 10 is because he doesn't do that lyrical miracle shit. But that doesn't
Yeah.
mean there's a place for him, you know. And that's what I mean. Like Larry June
Talk
is a
about
direct.
Snoop too, right? I've heard you have the same conversation about Snoop too. Like, I mean, he can do lyrical miracle, obviously, but like people say the same thing about him. Like that's most of it straight.
Too. People be like, Snoop's bars be elementary. It's like, well, Snoop ain't trying to be complicated. And
Right.
there's a
And there's intent there, right?
there's a reason that his debut album is literally the most easy to listen to quotable rap album that's ever been made.
Hmm.
Because even when everybody was on his you know what and loved his stuff, he was never rapping like too hard. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
like Murder Was the Case and the Shiznit is probably about as dense as he got. And even that's easy to quote, and some guys, and this is West Coast shit again. It's like, no, no, no. The West Coast guys is more about how they ride the beat and fit into the nuance of making the total record. A lot of those guys aren't trying to be super lyrical. Like Ice Cube wasn't never really trying to be super lyrical.
Hmm.
Ice Cube was just giving the commentary about what a kid from South Central Los Angeles was seeing.
Right.
The commentary just happened to be lyrical because Ice Cube's a gifted writer. You can tell if you go listen to Ice Cube stuff. Ice Cube was never trying to be some super lyrical guy on the mic. Ice Cube was being fucking Ice Cube.
Right.
Yeah. He
So
just happens to be a fucking genius of a writer. You feel what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like he wasn't trying to compete with like a Rakim or a KRS-One. You know what I'm saying? He was just doing.
right.
Yeah,
That comes back. It comes full circle to our whole conversation, right? Like this is not for that. Like it's not. That's not what we're trying to do.
yeah, it's not for
And,
that.
and people have to be careful, I think, of not going over the line between this is not lyrical and between that and this person is not capable of doing that because I want to make sure we're not saying I know we're not saying but people I want to make sure we don't say like they're not capable he's not capable of doing that if he wanted to he's not I think the point is that he's not trying to.
It's not. Everybody's got a different mission and different objective. It's like, how about this? It's like I consider myself a teacher and a leader in a lot of ways, but I'm not the type of teacher and leader that you are.
It's two different,
Like you
different.
literally you are a teacher by profession. I
Mhm.
am a teacher by culture giving.
Yeah,
But there's room for both of us,
of
literally
course.
right here on the same stage. And so
Why we're
even
yep.
now some guys not some guys aren't capable, Andrew. You get what I'm saying?
Hmm.
But to be honest with you, the guys that aren't capable, you very rarely hear me talk about them because my goal is always to try to say something positive about this
Right.
community and this culture. Larry June is more than capable of doing some excellent bar work, probably if he put his mind to it.
Yeah,
It's not his goal, and
but,
it's
but
quite
he's telling the story of his life, right? He's telling the story of the things that he witnesses and
yeah,
witness and is living, right? I mean that's the point.
yeah. That is the point. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what I'm saying. There's supposed to be space for everybody. Like hip hop is definitely in a place now more than ever where I think somebody like Larry June deserves more attention. And that's part of why I wanted to cover this project. Because I know even for the people who follow me via According to Hip Hop, probably expect me to cover certain topics and material and types of artists, and it's like, oh no, I fuck with everybody. Like
Right.
your shit dope, that's what I get down with.
Hmm.
Like, is it good? Like
Yeah.
that's the bar. That's the bar for me. It's like, is it good? Is the album good? Is the music good? Let me check it out. You know, I don't care who you are if the music's good. And it's like, I've heard him this year, and it's like bang bang. No, these records are great. These albums are great. We should
And
talk about.
that's why people trust your opinions too, and trust your taste, or why I do anyway. I can't speak for other people, I guess, but like if you get on here or get on and text me and say like you need to listen to this, I'm like okay,
I
I'll
think
get on that because like I trust your judgment and I trust your taste.
no, and it's funny because it's like now. It's almost like now because my opinion is so respected in the circle that I'm in by my peers and by my followers, and quite frankly by the people who steal my shit. It's almost like the point now for some people is to be combative with me.
Yeah.
Like they feel like they know as much as me. And I found out through the course of doing this, it's like, nah, no, you don't. I actually am one of the better people at this and breaking this down. And so I've learned to trust myself, you know?
Yeah.
And a lot of people now, it's because of the space that I'm in. And I guess it's fortunate to be in that space. A lot of people go now is just to argue with me about it for the sake of arguing with me about it and don't even be having no real points, you know?
Hmm.
It's just to say it to be an antithesis to try to kind of take me down a notch. But it's like, nah, I know what I'm hearing.
Because you're talking about, or they're talking about you, like they're riding coattails or whatever, right? I mean, that's and
There's
that,
some,
they'll like start whatever, like, and again, coming full circle, where like I'm comfortable, at least in this space, with who I am too. Like I don't, like I obviously have a lot of anxiety about a lot of things, and like I don't necessarily believe that. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of people who know more about music than me. Like, it's a long, long list, and like I'm not, and that's the thing. I'm not trying to compete with them. I'm, I am a teacher, right? Like, I am the thing that I do well is break stuff down and give people like insights and connections. Like that's the thing that I do well. Like knowing more shit than other people is not my lane, right?
well, I mean, here's the thing. I don't, it's been me listening to other people talk that made me realize that I know more. Like, that's it. And even then, and I've always told people this, it's like, oh no, one of the best things that happened to me was when I interviewed Chris the Glove earlier this year and did the 3-part series because it's like, oh no, he knows more than I do.
Oh yeah, he knows because he was there for a lot of it. Like he was,
He knows more than I do. Like, no, just musically speaking, I know when I'm talking to somebody who knows more than me. And I know when to shut the fuck up and pay them their respects. That's why I talked about him constantly
yeah,
throughout the course of this year because it's like, oh no, I know the glove know more about music than I do. I don't think that. I don't feel
he
that. I
does,
know.
he
I
does.
talked to, I talked to him for 3 hours. He understands things on so many different levels from being inside the room as a DJ, as a producer, as an
Mhm.
artist, like the stories, the people he's been connected to. It's like, oh no. So I never try to make it seem like I'm some sort of holy grail of information. I interviewed a producer half the hip hop community, quite frankly, doesn't even know exists. And I know he knows more than I do.
Yeah,
And I have no problem with giving him that. I'm actually a better reviewer and critiquer of music from having those conversations with him. That's how I know that he's better than me because
yeah,
I learned from him through the process of just speaking with him and asking him questions.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so some of it is a humility thing too. You know what I
And
mean? Like,
that's one of the places where our channel has moved in the last 3 months is when I stopped trying to do more videos, or when we stopped trying to do more videos where we're explaining shit and more that are like, or when I'm starting to do like reactions, like I don't understand this, guys, please explain it to me, and like and putting myself in that position because there's lots of I have tons of holes in my musical education, and so I'm listening to stuff, I'm telling people what I hear, but also I am putting myself in the humility position, like a humble position to say, like, I don't know all of this. Like, can you guys explain to me what I'm hearing? And people like to be teachers too, right?
yeah, I mean, I think some of the people who are best at what they do know when to humble themselves and listen to somebody who knows more.
Yeah.
It could just be about one particular thing, but if you can humble yourself long enough to sit down and learn more, that is part of being great at whatever it is that you choose to do. Like, I talk a lot of shit, but it's like, no, no, no. I know exactly when to be quiet and start listening and be like, wow, okay, take that, add it to me. Like no matter what it is that you do in the world, like the best people that I've seen are the people that learn how to what I like to call um, appropriate appropriately.
Okay. Say more about
So
that.
so it's like this. Like when I used to bartend
Hmm.
and I was in Orange County, I bartended with this guy named Steve Bittner. I was probably 23, 24 at the time. When we would work happy hour, I would be on the same side as him. He could literally be 1,500 Asian kids, UCI,
Hmm.
University of Cal Irvine, used to call it Asian invasion. Be 1,500 Asian kids in our building wanting to get fucked up. Like literally at the bar, hey, crazy, madhouse. He could literally line up, take about 7, 8 orders, and make about 15 to 20 drinks at a time off of recall.
Yeah, that's incredible to me. Like I can't.
No, it's still incredible to me to this day. Now, me and him were just as fast, but one, I was younger, and B, he was operating mentally on a level that I was not operating on. And one day, I humbled myself and I just went over and I asked Steve, I'm like, hey, Steve, how the fuck are you doing that? And this is what I mean about humbling myself. He helped me with my rap shit when he said this. It's like, well, it's an exercise for me. He's like, what we do isn't a complicated job. He's like, so I like to keep my mind turning. He's like, so I have to challenge myself. So literally, he's like, when one person is saying something, Armand, he was like, I'm reciting it in my head. He's like, and I just add it to the list as I go. He's like, and I recite it in my head over and over again. He's like, you rap, don't you? I was like, yeah. He was like, it's like I'm reading it like that in my
Okay.
mind and just repeating it to myself over and over again. I started doing that shit with my rhymes. It made me a better MC. Like, so he made me a better bartender and a better MC by explaining his mental process of taking all those large drink orders.
Mm. That's how I do songwriting too. Like I mean, it's the same. Like the things loop in my head, and before, and then it comes out the other way. Yeah. So it's that's a really a cool thing.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. It's like, how about this? Like, I knew I was great, even then. But I also knew that he was doing something that I hadn't mastered or knew how to do. It costs you nothing to humble yourself and ask a question.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's I mean that's the genesis of this whole thing is we talked about this earlier in the thing, like me saying, like, I don't know very much about this. Please help me learn about it. And then you having the humility also to say the same thing the other way around too, like
Yeah.
that you know more about you know Beatles
Chords
and
and melodies. Chords
yeah,
and melodies.
yeah,
Yeah, I do. That's because I've been asking you questions. Same way I asked Steve one day. It's like, man, how the fuck are you lining all these drinks up? He's like, oh no. He's like, I'm just saying it in my head over and over again. Then I go to the next person. He's like, while I'm talking to this person, I'm repeating that person's order in my head while I'm taking that person's order. He's like, then I just repeat it and line it up. He's like, and when my mind gets on full, I stop and then I sit and I line all those drinks up and I make them and kick, 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 kick. And I'm like, oh, like that's pretty fucking amazing.
yeah. It
I
takes
think I think I can incorporate some of that into what I'm doing in in rap and in life,
hmm
which was part of my life. It's like all I did in California was pretty much bartend and rap.
yep.
So it's like he helped me become a better version of me because I was humble enough to just walk up and ask a fucking question one day. But sometimes you have to be humble enough to appreciate somebody knows some shit that you don't know. Like that's part of the
There's
humility.
always somebody that
Yeah,
knows.
but you have to humble yourself and realize it, and let that person know that you want to learn something from them. And see, and then after that, me and Steve's friendship changed because
Yeah.
I humbled myself because I'm a young cocky black guy. quite frankly, I think when I met Steve, Steve was 38. So
Mhm.
and I was 23. So he's probably like, damn, Steve's damn near 60 now. He's in his late 50s now. We're still friends on Facebook too.
Mhm.
But after I did that, the conversations with Steve changed. He started telling me about his sons, started telling me about his cats, started telling me he actually had a house in Orange County. I'm like, you own a house in Orange County bartending? I was like, yeah, this motherfucker's great.
Yeah.
You know, and me humbling myself changed our relationship. Our working relationship became a friendship
Mhm.
from one question. Cost you nothing. Cost me nothing at all to do that. Made a great friend, learned a lot about rap, learned a lot about the business from a white guy. You know, he started asking me how my music was going. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like all that stuff. Yeah, from one question.
Mhm.
So
That's why I'm spending time talking to the deadheads about too. Like, just like, I don't know about this. Please help me understand. And they love explaining shit to me. Like, they
yeah,
love. I mean, that somebody else is interested in the thing that they love, right? And that's actually a comparison that I thought of as you were saying between a lot of their music and Larry June's albums. Actually, is that the songs flow into each other in that kind of way, and you hear like a 2 or 3 or 4 song set that's 45 minutes or something like that, that both has distinct parts to it but also is like one kind of longer piece of music too. It's like all kind of fits together as one larger piece as well.
yeah. No, it's dope. I think that's a good place to wrap up.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. It's not a bad show today, I think.
We gotta remember to tell people to like and subscribe at the beginning
Yeah,
and not I'm doing
not at
right
the
now.
end. Yeah, like and subscribe at the beginning. I mean, because we've had a few people in and out. Thanks, guys, for coming to hang
Yeah,
out with us. We appreciate you. um but yeah, we got to, I don't want to say we get our numbers up because that feels like we're not being grateful for the people who are hanging out with us. So we do appreciate y'all.
I'm grateful for what we have. I'm grateful for what we're doing. It's going to continue to grow. The followers are there. We just need to. I think it's just going to take some time, like all things do, but we'll get there. Not worried about
Yeah. All right, man. So see y'all later.
it.
I guess, girl.
Yep. Enjoy your Saturday, sir.
Absolutely. Enjoy yourself. Take care.
Later.